Hello, my name is Jimmy, and this is the 2023 Infiniti QX80, sharing the platform with the Armada or the Patrol, and debuted back in 2011 and remains largely unchanged since then. Does it still have what it takes to, well, battle it out with the luxury SUV market? So let's take a look with everything you need to know, starting with the looks. Starting with the front end, this is the Proactive trim, which means it's the utmost trim here in Canada. So because of that, you do have this dark chrome front grille, which I actually really like. LED headlights and LED fog lights on the bottom. It's an attractive front end in my eyes, and definitely looks a little bit more, well, has that status when it compares to the Armada, for example. The one thing that it shares with the Armada, which I'm personally not a big fan of, is just the license plate location. It's quite low on that front bumper. And because of that, if you're going off-road with it, like maybe the 5% of you, maybe even less, that is maybe going to get in the way. But of course, it's easy taking that off with a couple of screws. On the side here, we get 22-inch wheels. This is, of course, only for the utmost trim. The base comes with 20s, but these actually look very good for this truck. We do get some chrome bits like this side vent, as well as the door handles, but we also get some blacked out bits like the mirror cap. It's kind of weird. You get a mix of like blacked out bits, chrome bits, and of course the dark chrome bits on the front. So it's almost like if Infiniti wasn't sure exactly what they wanted here. But if we move over to the doors here, we do get proximity door locks on the front doors, which is great. Most cars have these now. However, not on the rear. So if you need to get access to the rear, you do have to unlock it on the front first. That's a little bit of a pain. Around the back is where things get a little bit bubbly with the bubbly LED tail lamps, as well as this bubbly rear bumper. The Patrol in other countries, well, it looks a lot better than this because it's not this bulbous thing that sticks out on the rear end. This, to comply with our safety laws here in Canada and in the US, we get this. It's a little weird. If we open up the trunk, which is the slowest operating tailgate ever, because I can finish this complete sentence and this thing is still not open. But we get 16.6 cubic feet of space here. Not the largest, definitely not. If you fold down the rear seats, you get 49.6, which is a lot better. One thing to note, if I'm back here, you can see it's actually leveled to almost the top of my legs here. So if you're putting something like this stroller in the back, you're gonna have to lift this all the way up. Sadly, the floor isn't flat throughout. You do get this little bit of a angle on the third row itself. But let's check out that third row. All right, getting access to the third row isn't difficult per se, but you do have to tumble these seats out. And it is a tumble. You just pull this lever and it tumbles forward. It's a single action, which is great, but well, if you have car seats on here, they're not going to be able to stay. You do have to remove anything that's on it before you can do this. All right, the third row. I'm 5'11" and I got just enough headroom, and legroom is okay as well. Sadly, the second row seats can't move fore and aft to give me more legroom if I want, but I mean, I guess it's okay back here for shorter journeys or even shorter people. It should be absolutely fine. And you do have a power tilt mechanism, so you can tilt the seat back a little bit more just to be a little bit more comfortable. And you get vents on the top, which I absolutely love because, well, when you're all the way in the back, sometimes it just feels a little bit claustrophobic. You got decent sized windows, vents. I mean, what more can you ask for? Probably some USB ports, because I definitely don't get any of those back here. But let's move up to the front. All right, the second row, pretty comfortable, I would say. Headroom, legroom is both really good. Actually, I think I got more headroom in this than the standard LX 600, which is definitely nice. The backrest, I can move it a little bit, but sadly the seats, I can't slide them fore and aft just because of the mechanism that they're actually on. This is the 7-seater option, and because of that, I got this giant center console. If you get the 8-passenger, you just get a seat here in the center instead. But this console is quite nice. You get 2 cup holders in the middle, and if you open these, well, you get your headphones in here, along with a bunch of bubble wrap, which is always fun on road trips. But of course, all of that is tied into this rear seat entertainment. I got a screen on the driver's side as well as on the passenger. You have your headphone plugs if you want to use wired headphones instead. But you also have USB as well as an HDMI connector here. So you can plug in like your computer or game console as you need. And to power those things, you also have a 120 volt outlet right in the center. And you also get heated seats and additional USB plugs to charge your devices as well. And what's nice is that front console I can access it from the back. With one press here, I actually have a little bit of opening. That is actually quite cool. However, if you're carrying little kids back here that need child seats, I am a child passenger safety technician. And on the driver's side here, this is a collect lane infant seat. No problems getting this infant carry in the cabin. Very useful space here. And on the passenger side, this is a collect foof and rear facing. Once again, no issues getting that back here. And in front of the foof, this is myself. I'm 5'11", and I fit perfectly fine. No real issues here. You do get two sets of lower anchors, one on the driver's side and one on the passenger side here, but sadly nothing in the rear. In terms of upper anchors, you get one here, one on the passenger side, and one on the third row on the passenger side. However, fitting child seats in the third row is relatively difficult because of just the limited space. I did put this collect seat on the third row of a Nissan Armada, which is exactly the same. And as you can see, there's just not a lot of legroom here. So I wouldn't really suggest that. Maybe a booster could be a little different. However, it's definitely hard to say because, well, once again, there's just not that much room back there. But let's move up to the front. All right, the front seats of the QX80. I'm 5'11", and I got enough headroom. Legroom is also pretty good as well. The seats are plenty comfortable. They're heated and cooled, but sadly, no massaging. And they're really comfortable because it reminds me of like a couch or sofa because it's absolutely flat. The bottom cushion has like almost no support on it, but you get some lateral support on the sides, but it's not a whole lot. And because of that, it just feels like you're lounging in here rather than actually in an automotive seat. Pros and cons of that, right? Because in a corner, you're going to be sliding around a whole lot more. But regular day-to-day driving, it's a very relaxed experience. In front of me, I got like a quarter of wood on the wheel here, but the rest is leather. It feels actually really good, and it is heated as well. You got this really nice stitching in the center and plenty of buttons on the side for everything that you really need to control at your fingertips. Behind that, you get the split analog and digital cluster. It has all the regular dials that you would basically need. And the center screen shows you like your trip computer, your fuel consumption, and a whole bunch of other stuff that you may want to know. But it's a pretty good and clear display. No complaints about that. No heads-up display, which is a little weird for this price bracket, but I guess that's fine. You do get this updated 12-inch unit here. I mean, wasn't updated for 2023, but it is newer. And because of that, you do get wireless CarPlay as well, which is absolutely great. The only thing is, you're not really getting the full 12-inch experience here, because on the right side, like the 33% of the screen is used as either a clock, digital, or analog, and some other stuff like turn-by-turn navigation and music information. So it's not like you're fully utilizing like CarPlay, for example, in the entire width of that display, which is a little bit of a miss because you're kind of just left with that 2/3 of the display that you can actually use. But it's actually kind of smart as well because as you're driving here, you're not going to be able to reach the right side without really stretching forward. By having the screen over on the left, it does make it easier to control. But I mean, I would like to see an option where I can expand it if I want. Lower down, we have the climate control, and that's totally old school with a bunch of buttons here to really control everything that you want. Underneath that, you get a flap that opens with the Qi wireless charger on the left, and then you get some USB ports down on the bottom. I mean, overall, this cabin really hasn't been updated too much, but I think for people that's looking for this kind of vehicle, it's absolutely fine because it's old school. And people that are looking for an older kind of tactile feel in their interior, they're going to absolutely love this. You don't have to dive into the screen to control, your climate or anything like that. So that's always good. Before we go a drive, let's talk about the powertrain. Underneath the hood, we get a 5.6-liter V8. It makes 400 horsepower and 413 pound-feet of torque. Mated to that is a 7-speed automatic and 4-wheel drive. And what do all of those numbers mean? Well, 0 to highway speeds, you can accomplish that in about 6 seconds. And while you do so, you get this is an incredible exhaust note. Have a listen. It is a V8 after all. It does deliver a V8 exhaust note. Sure, it may not be as good as an Escalade V, but you're also not paying that kind of money. I'll get to the money part a little bit later. But what I will say is this actually handles decently well. Because it is the Pro Active trim, it's a little bit different than the base model or even the Armada. It has well, hydraulic suspension components to control the pitch and roll of the vehicle. So because of that, it actually feels a lot more competent than other vehicles of this size on the road. However, MagnaRide, I would say, is still a little bit better. It feels more connected there than this. This just feels like it's kind of countering it, where that is more resisting it. It's a little bit different. However, the steering actually feels pretty good. It's vague, yes, absolutely. There's no like on center point feel or anything like that, but it's actually decently direct, and pair that with just a shorter wheelbase of this 3-row SUV, relatively speaking anyways, it actually feels quite good. It feels like you can toss this around a corner. Not that you would, or should, or want to, but you feel like you can at least. I mean, this can tow 8,500 pounds. It's quite a bit more than, well, even the GLS, for example. And I mean, it does it in a old school fashion that some people absolutely miss these days. There's a lot of vehicles out there these days with a whole bunch of screens and things that are automated. Well, yes, some automation is good. For example, this proactive basically means that on the highway, you get the adaptive cruise control, you got the lane centering, which isn't the best on this. It's more like a lane departure, but it has the adaptive cruise control, and that works really well, even to a stop. And that's like a good thing when it comes to like automation, but you'd still want to feel like you're driving the car. And because of that, that's why this QX80 exists. And let's go to that price. At 97,000 Canadian dollars or 89,000 for the base model, it seems like it's a lot, and it is. Not gonna lie about that. There's no way around getting to basically $100,000 vehicle and saying it's cheap. It's not. But it is less expensive than the Escalade, the Lexus, as well as the Lincoln products. So, I mean, it is a bargain when you do a little bit of comparison. Sure, you may not get as much in terms of like features and other stuff, and even interior practicality compared to some others. But this is reliable. It's very proven, because this platform, while yes, it's aged so gracefully that you won't really complain about it. And it just, well, it's a really good all-rounder if you're looking for something that's a little bit of a neater package. It's kind of like the IS500 that I drove recently. It's not the best in any worlds, but because it has that old school feel of V8 in the front, it's actually a pretty good package. And that's exactly what this Infiniti is. It's a good package. It's solid overall. It's going to be reliable because everything's been out for a very long time. And that's the best part about this. It's charm. Old school. Let me know what your thoughts are on this a little bit more old school of an SUV in the comment section down below. Do you like this? Do you like the Escalade? Do you like the Navigator? Do you like the LX600, which is probably the closest competitor to this? But yeah, let me know in the comments below. I'll catch you next time. Take care.